Hello and welcome to ThePrint. I am Aamaan, and in our Great Speeches series today, we revisit a speech delivered in the Rajya Sabha in August 1986 by Kanak Mukherjee during a debate on amendments to the Dowry Prohibition Act. In recent weeks, two deaths, Deepika Nagar in Greater Noida and Tushar Sharma in Bhopal, have brought attention back to dowry-related violence, domestic abuse, and the limits of legal reform. According to the National Crime Records Bureau data, India recorded 5,737 dowry deaths in 2024. Kanak Mukherjee, a Central Committee member of the Communist Party of India, Marxist, and the founder of the All India Democratic Women's Association, was considered a pioneer of the women's movement in West Bengal. She delivered the speech while Parliament was debating changes to the dowry law under the Rajiv Gandhi government. Speaking as a member of the Joint Select Committee that had studied the issue of dowry for 2 years, she welcomed the amendments but also argued that the government was rushing through the legislation without wider consultation. She said, "I don't know what is the intention of the government to pass this important bill in such a hurry. Do they want to appear as champions of the women's cause after passing such a retrograde Muslim women's bill? Or is it just propaganda to show that they want to do some good for women? Anyway, I still welcome this bill and most of its amendments." End quote. Mukherjee pointed out that women's organizations and the Joint Select Committee had spent years studying the problem and framing recommendations, many of which had still not been accepted. A major part of her speech focused on how dowry itself should be defined in law and why vague definitions weaken enforcement. Quoting the recommendation discussed by the committee, she said, "Dowry means money or any other thing estimable in terms of money demanded or taken from the wife or her parents or others on her behalf by the husband or his parents or his relatives or others on his behalf where such a demand is not referable to any legally recognized claim or is relatable to the wife having married into the husband's family." End quote. Mukherjee also argued that the law could not treat the giver and taker of dowry the same way because the social and economic power between the two sides was unequal. She said, the third recommendation was in regard to the punishment to the giver and taker of dowry. It was recommended that both should not be equated. The taker should be punished more. End quote. From there, the speech moved beyond legislation into the larger social conditions that sustain dowry. Mukherjee argued that the problem could not be separated from the women's lack of economic independence. She said, the economic policy of the government is throwing more and more women out of employment. So these women, when they are not having the chance of education and employment, have to depend economically on men. So economic independence is very essential for raising the status of women. End quote. She went on to argue that dowry, prostitution, and women's dependence were all connected to the deeper economic and social structures. She said, if economic independence is not there, then the evil of dowry and the evil of prostitution cannot be eradicated. End quote. Mukherjee repeatedly returned to the argument that laws alone could not solve the problem if larger inequalities remained untouched. She said, we must remember that the dowry system is a deep-rooted social evil. In spite of the fact that we are passing more and more laws and amendments, obscenity against women and atrocities on women are increasing day by day. End quote. She then linked dowry to what she described as the growing commercialization of marriage. She said, the marriage system in our country has become something commercial under the capitalistic and feudal system. So the marriages are linked up with commercial motives. End quote. Another major theme in the speech was education and culture. Mukherjee argued that legal reform without social change would remain limited in effect. She said, the evil of dowry cannot be completely eradicated unless the boys and girls are culturally advanced and are educated. The self-respect among boys and girls must be there to eradicate the evil of dowry. End quote. She also expressed concern about changing social attitudes towards women and the erosion of respect within families. She said, the cultural standards of our young people are becoming more and more degrading. They're not learning to respect their mothers, sisters, and wives. End quote. While ending her speech, she made it clear that she still supported the legislation as a necessary step, but also gave a warning. She said, with the economic, educational, cultural, social, and political policies of the government, the dowry system cannot be fully eradicated. End quote. Thank you for joining us on Great Speeches. For more from The Print, become a subscriber at theprint.in/subscribe. I am Aamaan in Delhi.